Do you wait for them to come to you just for advice for stuff, or do you kind of impart it on them naturally?
Kidding? I lay it on them with a trowel. Arise, my sons, awake. Take the destiny that is yours. Your name is being called unto the heavens. Take your destiny. What is yours? Rise up, my sons.
Dystopia Tonight. Dystopia Tonight.
What's going on, man?
How are you?
I'm here on a not very sunny California day talking to you guys.
Oh, beautiful, man. I'm am I wrong or right? Did you do Spyro the Dragon?
I did indeed. In fact,
Yes.
there's a generation of folks out there for whom I'm the guy who did Spyro. And hey, you used to play in a band? No.
Yeah. I know. It is crazy. I didn't.
And
even
that generation, by the way, includes my kids. And in fact, the Copeland family could be found. When was it? In the I can't remember, whether the 90s, I guess, or the thousands. Anyway, we'd be there with eldest son on the controls and all the siblings. Turn left, turn right, jump. Pick up the thing. And of course, I'm there. And it's like a 50s television show with the family all gathered around, listening to my music.
Oh,
Heaven on earth.
Wonderful.
Amazing.
That is wonderful, right? That you've influenced not only in Spyro the Dragon, but also in that band you used to play in so many generations of people.
It is. It's crazy. I mean, obviously, like I was just, I Google every guest, people come on or whatever. I'm looking through your whole career and obviously the police, and I literally saw the Spyro the Dragon thing, and I was like, "There's no way." I'm like, I loved that game, and I was like, "There's no way." And I'm so happy to hear that you did it, and your family got to enjoy it.
Well, it was an easy, fun game. Nobody dies. Not even he sort of goes up in a puff of smoke, but he shows up again.
Yeah.
It was really good fun. As a matter of fact, I did it for 4 years, and every summer I would do the equivalent of a quadruple album of backing tracks. Wow. And I discovered that the more I did under the more pressure, actually the better the music is, because you're in too much of a hurry to judge yourself or anything. You just churn them and burn them. And then years later, I look back and dang, that was a good tune.
Did you feel like over the pandemic you felt more creative though, because of the freedom you had of maybe to do more stuff?
Well, that's the opposite of the pressure.
Yeah.
But the pandemic meant that the phone didn't ring. And while mindful of all kinds of disaster out there, people losing their lives, their livelihoods, just the change and everything, kids stuck at home. I mean, it was a disaster all the way around. But a very few people kind of got away with it. Writers with their typewriters up in northern Vermont or something, and me in my studio with my computer, able to really work hard and be creative while outside all kinds of misery is going on. And I'm very, I was very grateful to the new anointed heroes of the time, which were the delivery guys. They get nobody writes symphonies about the delivery guys, but boy, I sure felt one in my heart every time they would show up with sustenance.
That's a great way to put it.
Frontline workers of every kind suddenly became the heroes of our time. That's a good thing.
Absolutely. And I like that that was the thing though. They would call them essential employees, which is like, absolutely. When you think about it, you're like, they're always essential. They're there for you no matter what. They're working the 24-hour stores. They're pumping gas. They're doing all that kind of stuff. And I'm like, now they're being recognized because the rest of us can't actually do anything anymore. And you're just like, oh my God, they were always there for you,
Yeah. Well, they weren't under threat of plague.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Let all people experience the glory.
And you just joined Twitter for the first time and got 1 million views.
God.
And you're loving it.
Well, actually, I haven't fully switched over. I'm on Instagram. I got a crew who calibrate it. They figure out, I create the images just as I go along. I take pictures of stuff. I got pictures of stuff, and they send me, okay, on Thursday this, and I think up the captions, which is good fun, a funny little caption for everything. And then I sit back and watch. And on Thursday, let's see, what did I post today? But mainly, more than watching what I posted today, I go past all my friends and see what they're all up to. Fine. Then I get to the stuff they start sending me. And they have me figured out. They've stopped sending me the 12-year-old drummers finally, because I never click on those. But for a while, obviously, I'm interested in every 12-year-old drummer. Personally, I believe they should all be strangled at birth because they're coming for my dinner.
Yeah.
I love them all. They should not be strangled. They should be nurtured.
Yes.
But I've ended up on crazy motorcycle tricks, people jumping off of skyscrapers, hair-raising events, and pratfalls, of course, some of which look painful. Motorboats crashing into the harbor. Love that stuff. Crazy dances. I get a lot of strange European guys and women in bow ties and kind of 50s look doing utterly unsexy but kind of riveting dances. You would never score on the disco dance floor with this kind of stuff, but it's kind of watchable with its goofy charm.
Yeah.
I'm a sucker for that. And of course, I get your lions chasing after deer, half of which get away.
For some reason, I get a lot of that too. I must have watched one video with animals, and now my everything is animals. This one fighting that one, alligator versus bison. I saw that one. All 500 of those ones. Sometimes the bison gets away and kicks the alligator in the face.
Yes.
Sometimes the bison goes under.
Yeah. Absolutely. My friend screwed me royally because he sent me one. You know when somebody sends you one thing, the algorithm picks up on it.
Yeah.
He sent me one. He's a paramedic, so he's like, oh man, he's like, you got to follow this paramedics page, and it's the most gruesome, like knee popping, whatever. But I clicked on it, and then I was like, oh god, no, I don't want to see that stuff. And now like every other photo is like this. Nail popping off, like hands slitting the thing. And I just message him and I'm like, why would you do this to me?
You can't unsee that stuff.
Yeah, it's really bad. You know what the other trend is, and I don't know if you fall into this one either. It's people on airplanes, but who are having like engine failure or what, like that's like that's an adrenaline rush.
That sounds great. I want to see some of that.
Hey, I get it. I mean, I understand.
And I fly a lot.
Yeah, one of those things you can't avoid when you're traveling. Like even when I'm in the air, I'm like, well, they got out of it though. It's all uplifting. I've never seen anybody post a crash, but they're always like,
it's better than TV. We watch our show right now. We're watching Pam and Tommy, best television ever.
Absolutely.
That man is. I happen to know Tommy as a really sweet guy, and he's like when drummers gather together, he's always there as one of the. He's just a great, fun guy. He's taught me all kinds of cool stick twirling tricks,
Nice.
And so when the show came out, I was wondering if they captured his sweet nature in the first episode. Holy shit, that's who he is? My God. And I immediately, that is now my role model. I'm going to be that guy.
Are you also going to have the talking, you know what?
Well, I am going to get me, I do wear Speedos when I swim, free of the male burqa, that is the California bathing suit. But he's taking it to the next level. I got to get me a G-string.
Yeah. Wow. I know. It's a wild show, man. It's intense. And
we're like 2 or 3 episodes into it, and he's already turned into a nice guy.
Yes,
the first episode, you're wondering, how would he sign off on that? But now I know. Of course, we fall in love with him. And this is more the Tommy that I know and love.
Oh, beautiful. Yeah, I know. They did a really good job with it. I was a little worried about it, but they knocked it out of the park.
By the way, the actor got the stick twirling thing better than I did. I mean, he's obviously a quicker study.
I was just gonna say, I'm blanking on his name, which happens every episode, but I can't. But he was phenomenal. He's really good at it.
Yeah, they both are. They both are really good.
They're both great. Look like him too, which is insane. I don't know how they do that.
His face is a little longer.
Yeah. That's true.
I wanted to know. Have you always had a passion for the drums? Like as a kid, did you grow up saying I want to be a musician?
Drums and guitar. Actually, I can never make up my mind when I'm walking down listening to Jimi Hendrix. My fantasy was all schizophrenic. Am I the guitarist or am I the drummer? And could I be playing that on guitar like drumming with my feet or something. Nah, it just never worked out. When I imagined the girl that I was obsessed with in high school, and I'm there on stage. Am I playing guitar or am I playing drums? It was always a problem. I was better at drums, but dang it, I should have been a guitarist too.
Right. And that was it. You went straight into music when you were younger. You didn't have any. Did you have any other passions?
I kept trying to do something else, but it kept pulling me back. I was editor of a magazine. I started a magazine when I was in college. I was a radio jock. I roadies. Basically I'm a glorified roadie. But the music thing just kept pulling me back.
Were your parents cool with it, or did they give you a hard time?
Oh yeah, my father was a jazz musician, and the minute I was the last of 4 kids, and he filled the house with instruments, hoping that they would pick up on him. None of them did until I came along, and I was just banging stuff all the time. Well, maybe he's a drummer, and so immediately got me drum lessons and proper technique from the age of 10 or something. Wow. So I started pretty young, with encouragement by my father. Now at the time. Incredible. We were living in the Middle East, in Lebanon, in Beirut, Lebanon.
Wow.
And as soon as my father sussed out that I was kind of good at it, he got me a teacher, an Armenian drummer in a strip joint or something. He taught me how to set the drums and hold my sticks properly and how to go ting, ting, ti, ting. So when I grew up, I was kind of immune, shall we say, to jazz, because that's how I was raised up.
Nice. Wow. So you have good memories of Lebanon, you'd say?
Absolutely. Yeah, it was fantastic. It was the Switzerland of the Middle East. More like the Rio de Janeiro of the Middle East. And that's where I played in my first band at the American Embassy Beach Club. I went to AC, American Community School there. And yeah, my early teens were in Beirut, Lebanon.
Wow. What was your
when I got to from there, when my father was in the CIA, and when it got kind of hot for him politically, his best friend, an English spy, Kim Philby, turned out to be a Russian double agent, and one night jumped on a ship and split, and suddenly everything went crazy, and he sent me off to boarding school in England.
Oh my God!
I completed my adolescent years.
Wow!
But when I got to England, I didn't realize that half the words in my vocabulary were Arabic, weren't even English words. Faddal, give me, I've sort of forgotten a lot of it by now, but it took me a while to figure out which were the English words and which were the not English words.
Right. When he sent you off to boarding school, though, did you understand? Like, did he explain to you what was going on? Did you feel like you were like worried about your parents, your dad, and anything?
No, because it was all quite secretive.
Right. Yeah, I can imagine.
And so I ended up in darkest Somerset, England, in a boarding school out there.
Wow. Did he ever, do you remember him eventually telling you, and were you like, holy shit, or like, what was your reaction?
Well, he wrote a book. He later became known as the most public secret agent ever. My father was very garrulous, very outgoing, very sociable.
Wow.
A great storyteller. And when I was in college in San Diego, that's when his book came out, and on the line, because there was always whispers. But then again, everybody in Beirut was a spy. And one day my older brother came home, and he says, "Dad, are you a spy?" And my father answered, this is the family legend. My father says, "Who wants to know?" But when I was in college, his book came out, and there, right there on the liner notes was Miles Copeland, yada, yada, yada. Oh, holy crap, it's true.
Oh, my God.
I thought it was kind of cool. But the politics of that day were such that it was really uncool with all my friends. My God, how could you love your father? How could you, all that kind of stuff. Well, if you met my father, you would understand.
Yeah. He seemed like a great guy.
My mother used to say, you could always tell a spy at the cocktail party by the one who's talking the most bullshit.
That's a great point, too.
Well, because they're not going to talk about anything serious.
Right.
So they just talk rubbish.
Yeah. It's crazy, though, man. I mean, I can't imagine that.
Well, my father would have bridled. He wasn't a spy. He was a CIA operator.
Okay.
Their job was to prop up the dictators that they installed. When I was born in Langley, Virginia, which is a suburb of the CIA headquarters, my father was away on business in Cairo installing dictator Gamal Abdel Nasser. And from the years after, and basically they were keeping the Middle East stable. They had no tradition there are very, very nascent tradition of democracy. And so the main thing that everyone wanted was stability. And mostly the people in those lands, their attitude, he may be a son of a bitch, but he's our son of a bitch. And so Gamal Abdel Nasser was actually pretty good as dictators went for Egypt. Wow. And then later in Syria, there were shenanigans in Syria before I was born. And it was mainly the Ruskies, the Soviets, their mission was to shake up our oil empire, because the United States economic industrial jugular passed through the Middle East. There was no messing around. We needed that oil, period. Nothing would stop the United States from securing that oil and propping up the governments with whom they had deals. Now, in hindsight, looking at these relationships with these emerging nations, there's questionable, dubious ethics involved, but we couldn't have it otherwise. And the Russians' job was basically to destabilize all of our stuff. And my daddy's job was to combat their destabilization.
Wow. Can you believe we're still dealing with that kind of a thing though now? Like how long after? Yeah. It's ridiculous that it's everything I'm learning about it now. One of my friends is she has a PhD in history, and she kind of this is a professor at Yale, and she's dealing with all that kind of stuff, Russian, history and all other shit. And she keeps telling me stuff and sending me stuff that, I mean, we learned about some of it in school, but not to this extent. And everything that keeps going on, it's so weird. It's very parallel. It's all
it doesn't have to be. The end of the Cold War was supposed to be, okay, let's all get along, and be mutually, which we have done. Ever since the end of the Cold War, the world has prospered all over. Russia, China, America, Europe, everywhere. It's South America, Africa. The world, without a world war going on, not even a Cold World War, has prospered. So it is kind of a disaster that we have slipped back into that rivalry between East and West, between communism and capitalism.
Yeah, it's really crazy.
I would love to ask you, too, because I feel like the world is smaller for some people, right? So you've been all over. Like traveling in your
Not
travel,
all over. Right? I haven't been to Russia. In fact, there's a lot of Eastern Europe I've never been to. Most of China.
Wow.
The tragedy of this conflict is that if I were to go to Russia, I would probably love the people there.
Yeah.
I've been to Beijing and various places in China. I love the Chinese people are really great people. Yeah. And yet our nations are in conflict, which is unfortunate.
It's always five guys causing the problem.
That's right.
And then the rest of us have to suffer.
Yeah.
It's like sitting in a school class, right? Like there's always like one guy that's got to make a problem. Now the whole class is bad, but really it's just that guy, and we could all get along. Because that's what that was exactly what I was going to ask. I feel like the world in general, people are people. Everybody just wants to be happy, love their family, get by, right?
Absolutely.
I was actually I was gonna ask. I love your background, by the way. So I was gonna ask, do you play constantly in that room? Is that?
I do.
That's awesome.
Over here is the computer where I work.
Oh, very nice.
Where's the computer? Oh, the screens are off right now. But this is the Sacred Grove, where my cool friends come over to hang and play. It's all the drums, the keyboards, the amps. They're all mic'd up and ready to go.
Awesome.
And so my chuckle buddies come over. Snoop Dogg, Neil Peart used to come over, and Taylor used to come over. They come over here and pick up instruments, and we jam. And I also have cameras around the room too. So I just there was 6 hours of memory in them. I just turn them on, and then the next day I stagger in here, and what I get.
Right.
And one of the things is that after like a intense 15-minute jam, let's play back, because musicians love playback. And while we're playing back, hey, let's be a brass section. And so they, we all do the air tower of power, and since they're musicians, I can say, hey, take a solo. Sure. And they don't know how to play the instrument, but they do know what a solo would be. So when I've had our fun, and I can overdub because the cameras don't move. There's no engineer or anything in here. And I can overdub. I got Snoop on the drums over there. And then I give him a horn, and he's over here. And I got two Snoops on the screen because with matting. I can overlay, and so I'd
cool.
create these things. And as for the bogus, saxophone solo or whatever, I could figure out what they would have played with MIDI and a sax sample, sort of construct what they would have played if they had known how to get those notes. And then I pick up my saxophone and note by note build it. And you can find all these on YouTube. Sacred Grove,
Sacred Grove. I'm going to be following that right now. I feel like
Absolutely.
how crazy is that?
They're kind of fun. I just make them for fun, put them for all the children to enjoy.
Very nice.
And it's way too complicated with all the people just goofing off in here to, release an album or anything. But I could definitely release an album of the jams we've had in here.
Oh man, I love that you have that recorded and all that other stuff too, because I have such a, we've had a bunch of other guests on and stuff like that too, and it's funny when you see people and how they feel about posterity versus living in the moment, and I feel like you can combine those two and have both, because
it's definitely a moment in here.
Exactly, yes, and you're creating it, and it's important to have. I have almost an advice question, because obviously you've been doing this forever and you have that amazing room.
Stu Daddy.
Yes, please. So here's my question, because you've got that amazing room, and you obviously love doing the matting, everything you were talking about, overlaying stuff and working with the cameras and getting all those people in there. How do you when you love what you do, which I love going and doing stand-up, I love being on tour, I love writing material, and now I've got this thing, and I like editing, and I like putting stuff together and making shit. Do you have to consciously separate the amount of time you spend technically working on stuff versus doing outside social habits? Because I swear to God, man, I could spend.
I just don't have any outside social habits.
Fantastic. Is that? I was gonna say, is that normal?
Overboard
because
with that stuff.
Yes.
In fact, like everybody, like you, I'm sure. I've lost a lot of social stamina.
Yeah.
We don't go out to dinner parties anymore, and it's not for fear. It's just because it's fear of people, not germs.
Right.
Yeah. And I've been out doing shows, and I really enjoy doing those.
Yeah.
But for social, I kind of like Zoom. I have my chuckle buddies I go out on the bike path with on a Sunday morning.
Nice.
A few other things with really, really close chuckle buddies, but dinner parties, not so much.
Yeah. I'm the same way, man. And I feel like I should, like, people are like, you ever going to cut your hair again? Or maybe, shave? I'm like, no,
put
I'm
on
good.
pants. That's an effort.
There you go. Exactly. Yeah. You're a fit guy. You're in shape, because I bike and cycle and stuff like that too. Was that a recent hobby, or you've been doing that forever?
I've been doing the bicycle. We go along the horizontal bike path next to the Pacific Ocean. There are no hills. The only exertion is kind of in the stomach muscles here from laughter and song. Crackpot theories, get rich quick schemes, unlikely stories. It's basically just laughter and song, because I read somewhere that friends who are not business associates, or that you have no agenda with, just people you go hang out with for the heck of it, they're good for your health, and they're good for your longevity. And so that's I look at my crazy friends, like, dang, you guys are good for my health. I need you to be healthy.
Yeah, exactly. There you go. I got to ask, because I know you were talking about when you started your first band and stuff like that. Did you have somebody that triggered the music, like as far as like a band that you admired, somebody you saw on TV? What was the impetus to go, I want to be in a band?
Gosh, my brother Ian, I was 12, he was 14, was my agent back in Beirut.
Wow.
And the band, the Black Knights, who played the high school, the English high school, the American high school, the Italian high school, and all the cool joints. They lost their drummer. So obviously Ian Copeland, who was the coolest kid on campus, they had him, but he actually couldn't play drums.
Wow.
So he got me the gig with the Black Knights, and we played James Brown, Kinks, and
nice.
music of that era.
And then, so what was your first paid gig? Do you remember that?
Now that you mention it, I'll bet you Pete Carneef got paid for those embassy gigs.
Now it's time to look him up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey.
I'm glad I could bring you two back together.
I played, when I got to California, I played beer parties, keggers, but I don't know if any money changed hands there. My first jobs that I got paid for was a roadie for Wishbone Ash, for Renaissance, for various different groups. I was elevated to tour manager. I brought Joan Armour Trading on her first tour.
Wow.
And then I finished off college at Berkeley, UC Berkeley.
Nice.
And then, like I say, it's just calling me back. And I went back to London for summer, ended up joining a band, and the rest is
history. Yeah. That's incredible, man. And do you feel like those friendships you made on the road, even when you were doing roadies and stuff like that, like kind of shaped who you were as a person growing up?
They shaped my concept of how you run a band. That's for sure.
Right.
I knew what the real issues were, and I could hear what the musicians are griping about, which weren't the real issues, and what management was trying to get the band to do. And I could reach across this cultural divide between front office and band.
Nice.
In fact, my first really professional band with a record company and everything was Curved Air. And they had hits years before, and I was kind of the last rat to jump aboard the sinking ship. But it was a real band playing real gigs in front of real audiences, making real money with a road crew and everything. But I started out as the tour manager. From long story, but I was the tour manager. And then when their drummer, at the end of this tour they did, he just said he didn't want to anymore. And so I said, well, I play drums. And I was dating the singer at the time. So mother of my 3 sons.
Very nice.
Wow.
Congratulations. Even better.
And so I got the job.
Yeah.
And it was downhill from there.
Yeah. Did that help you navigate management better? Like, did you find? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the Police famously had our shit together.
Yeah.
And that was even before my older brother Miles kind of took over. At first, it was just me with my Rolodex, booking the truck, booking the PA, hustling for shows, selling records, literally myself on the phone to a record store in Birmingham or Liverpool, selling boxes of 25 records, and Sting and Henry and I stuffing them into sleeves, because I didn't realize you're supposed to take the picture disc sleeves to the factory that's making the record, and they will put the record into the sleeve. But so I got the first 2,000 in white sleeves, and there we were, taking them out of that and putting them into this. Right. And so, yes, then when things started to happen, actually, I had a mini hit with Clark Kent, very obscure, but it got us all on Top of the Pops. The first time the 3 Blonde Heads were on TV was actually as my backing band.
Oh, nice.
But old Sting quickly stepped up and took care of that little pissing match.
Wow.
And the Police swallowed everything else in life.
Right. Was there a moment in the Police when you felt like you could see it? Because again, you had more experience. You could see it coming. But what was the point where you were like, "Oh, we're gonna pop. This is gonna be huge"?
Pretty much every step of the way.
Wow.
Sting and Andy, when he joined, kept revealing more and more depth. When I first met Sting, I saw him as a bass player who could sing a bit. And that's cool. One less person in the car. We could be a 3-piece. That was always my desire, was for it to be a 3-piece. I had a cool name. I had a manifesto. We don't care about success and fame. We just want to play the music of the uniform that we adopted as total mercenaries, the punk uniform. It's kind of a laugh to read that manifesto now. Anyhow, but I recruited him as a bass player who could sing. Cool, he can sing.
Yeah.
None of us, well, he probably knew, but I had no idea how incredibly he could sing. And the part that I suspect that not even he knew about was the songwriting part, because he was in a jazz band, pretty good jazz band actually, called Last Exit, and they were doing 15-minute creations, real serious, real complicated, and quite beautiful. But it wasn't until the rigor of the punk music, and the punk laws were very strict. Thou shalt not play more than 2.5-minute song. Thou shalt not have a guitar solo. Thou shalt not sing about boys and girls. It's got to be political. All this stuff. But the discipline of getting it into 2 minutes, he landed on the good foot, and really his musicality, which obviously had been there all along, funneled into that particular form suddenly that's when the sparks started to fly. And his first time, I can't remember what his first song he brought. It might have been Born in the 50s. Whoa, let's play that. And I didn't even realize that he'd come out with another, hey, let's play that. Wow. And just each one. And with every one of them, we said, we're going to conquer the world. We are the coolest. Oh, yes, we are. And we thought that when we were groveling in the gutter. And I think that most bands will tell you that they wouldn't be in a band together if they didn't have that messianic determination and being absolutely convinced that we rule. I'm pretty sure most bands feel that way.
For a band as huge as you guys were, would you say the bonding came more from the writing process and the music, or that time spent in a van, on the road, in a tour bus, on a plane? Like, where the
it all
friendship
meshes together.
It all meshes together.
The music and the hang all kind of go together.
I love like your energy. Like, has your energy always been like this positive, like move forward? Because I feel like that's really what makes you such a success, is that you believe that this is supposed to happen, and you go out there and like you created your destiny.
You know, I had cause to dig out my diaries from 1978 and 77, which is when the last year of Curved Air and the first year of the couple of years of the Police. And I cannot believe, woke up, drove over to Andy's place, picked up the gear, drove over to Sting's place, picked up his gear, went over to the rehearsal space, rehearsed for 20 hours, then went down to the Marquee Club, then went over to the Roxy Club, then went over to the other club, then drove up to Newcastle. Jesus Christ, I get exhausted. I mean, those were really very busy times, desperate times, you might say.
Absolutely. But did you, I feel like you pursued the passion. Did the money just follow? Well, but you do seem to have a tremendous business sense too. So
we always broke even, but we didn't necessarily get rich. We started to get to the point, you know, our first record was, you know, it got no airplay. Sold, I think at the time, it sold a lot more over the years, but at the time we sold those 2,000 copies, and I had money that I could divide three ways. We made money out of our first single that we made ourselves. I designed the single sleeve and so on, borrowed some money to record it. So we were always financially solvent, shall we say. But there was a time, a particular day, when we were in America, we were in New York, and we got a phone call from London saying, boys, the money has dropped. You are now extremely wealthy. You don't say. So we went down to 57th Street, was 47th Street, whichever, Manny's, the big music store, and bought, let's say I'm going to have the Roland Chorus Echo, that Fender amp there. I'm going to get me a Stratocaster and a bass, and we just went shopping that day and bought half of the store. You know, Sting got a Stratocaster. I want one too. And it was an orgy. And our show that night was out on Long Beach at a place called My Father's Place. The sound check from hell.
Wow.
With all of us playing with all our cool new toys. They both of them got Moog pedals, bass pedals. So boo, 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 boo. And I got these delay. In fact, I still got them over here. I still got my Chorus Echo. And I was just screwing around with it, playing with all their toys. And so I put a microphone on the snare drum with the Chorus Echo, batta, 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 and I just kind of discovered this thing. And inspired kind of by dub reggae, which is another long lecture.
We're here for it.
Yeah, but I figured I could do that, and so I started playing with the slapback as a musical instrument, and that fad lasted me all the way through the rest of the Police years. You know, a lot of Police reggae, you can hear that delay line. It doesn't just go bap; it goes bap bap, and so bap da 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 dig dig dig, and you build up these complex rhythms.
How was it always the interest in music that you had, you know, to play those instruments and stuff like that? Because it seems like you still have it. You seem like you're still interested in playing with new stuff and finding new shit to do. Is that just, how do you keep that spark going?
The spark keeps me going. Every day I marvel. You know, now my day job, I'm now an opera composer.
Yes.
And an orchestrator, and I write music for symphony orchestra.
Right.
And every day I come here, I can't wait to finish breakfast, get in here, and get started on what I was working on last night. And I'm in my 70th year, and it has not even begun to get old. I'm getting better and better. I think the gift that I had, I was born with. And it's interesting that I look back, also looking at this 1978 period, my recordings that I did on a Revox A77 and a TIAC 4-track, that's exactly the same music personality that I have now that I'm writing symphonies. But the chops are improved. The skills are much developed, but it's the same gift, the same thing. I think that's probably true of most musicians, that you're born with your gift. All you got to do is develop it and work it. And in fact, I saw one of those aphorisms the other day. Nothing works if you don't have the gift, but if you don't work the gift, forget it. Never mind.
Oh, yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah. Did you? Okay, I got to ask this question because we've had a lot of guests on that have told us some ridiculous stuff about, let's say, when they first got their money, they bought like a car they couldn't afford or drive or something ridiculous.
Well,
you guys all bought
Walsh
instruments.
Wrote the ultimate song about that.
Yeah. I just got what I was thinking about.
My Maserati does 195 something, and now I don't drive.
Well, that's what I'm saying. You guys went out and bought musical instruments, which is pretty more practical than anything else. Did you spend your money on
houses?
I was gonna ask. Did you guys?
I bought horses.
Okay.
All my money went on horses rather than cocaine, but those horses were more expensive, actually.
Yeah, horses are pricey pieces.
Did that force you to learn to ride? Did you already know to ride?
Well, at that boarding school I was at, it was kind of a fancy boarding school, and I learned how to ride there. In fact, learned how to play polo there.
Oh, wow.
Which is why I'm, got all that money. I got the obligatory rock stars estate in the country, and I'm there in the country. Well, I got to get me some horses, and I got some horses, and then the polo thing, and there was a polo club not far away, so I went down there and joined up, and the next 12, 13 years, I was obsessed with it, and I won the Archie David, one 4th of July. I'm still bragging on this decades later. 1 4th of July, I was the most patriotic American on the planet because I spent that afternoon in Buckinghamshire, England, aggressing directly upon British royalty in a game against Prince Charles. He was the number 4 position. I was the number 1 position, which meant that he was my guy. My job on that 4th of July was to get him off his game. And I did get some foul language from those royal lips. Oh, bloody buggering hell. And he was a much better polo player than me.
Wow.
We both had pretty good horses. Probably his were better. But by this time I was shopping down in Argentina, and it's all about the horse flesh, about getting the best horses and working with them. And my job was to basically get in his way. And when my team is going for the kill, I got to get him as the defense. He was the main defense. And I'm forward. I got to get him out of the way so my guys could score. And so there I am. Take that, Boston Tea Party. Taxation without representation.
Oh my God!
Game of Thrones.
Yes, I was gonna. The original Game of Thrones.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh my God! What? So I can't imagine you're shy around people. You know what I mean? Because again, all the people that you named so far, was there somebody that you were starstruck though when you were younger, when you were doing it, that you maybe were afraid to go up to, or were like, "Holy shit, I can't believe it's blank, this guy," or were you just like, "Nope, we're the police"?
Absolutely. Yeah. Those who came before me are my boss. I serve them. I bow down before. The bass player in the Pretty Things is my superior, is above me because he came before. And that's how musicians do it. It's very simple. We, like dogs, relax once they know where everyone's position is in the hierarchy. If they're at the bottom, the top, the middle, doesn't matter as long as it's established and we can all get along. So in music, it's chronology. Whoever went first is boss.
Nice.
And whoever comes after serves. And it's an amazing thing that, I regard the Beatles as Beatles. But the bands who came after me, who were 16 in my glory days, they treat me like I'm a Beatle.
Is there anybody
you were ranked one of the best drummers ever by Rolling Stone, right?
The fact that Buddy Rich wasn't even on that list makes it a little dubious. But I will take it, sure.
and you surround yourself. You had mentioned earlier, because we did lose a great drummer, that he was one of your close friends and part of this inner circle that used to play in this room right here.
It's been open season on drummers. You know, it seems like a very short period that Ginger Baker, Neil Peart, Charlie Watts, and now Taylor. And it's just not right. You know, Neil Peart and Ginger Baker, one of the last recordings he did was right there. He came over one afternoon and he was kind of ailing. He was here with his daughter. He played for 1 minute, which is, by the way, is on YouTube, The Sacred Grove. Wow. And then he sort of finished, and 20 minutes later, the paramedics arrived and wanted to take him to hospital. You can old fuck. Oh, if I'm not going to know, fucking old spit. Oh, he said in its kindly tones. But Neil, he knew it was coming. In fact, it took about 2 years longer than expected. At one point, he says, dude, I am past my sell-by date by a year. And then he carried on for another year. But so he saw it coming. He made his peace. He was all adjusted, and everybody, you know, his close friends were with him. Yeah, it was beautiful. It was really a first-class ticket. He saw his train coming. But Taylor, for God's sake, that guy was so pulsing with life, so here now, just vibrant, so unstoppable, that it was really a shock. For me personally, I just come off stage with the Nashville Symphony. Great show. I'm all pumped up, and I get this news right as the endorphins are squirting out of every pore. I get that news. I just couldn't believe it. There's a reception afterwards, room full of people. Hey, you're great. You know, I had to kind of just like not believe it until I got back to my room. Oh God, no, it's just ain't right.
Right.
You know? And all the people who knew him, his buddies, of which there were many, were all just texting back and forth, going, "What the fuck?"
Yeah.
You know?
It's so much outpouring of love too, though. You know, I mean, it's every time somebody like that passes away, it's crazy because I'm sure his inner circle and his close friends and people like yourselves and whatever, you know, you express that kind of thing. Do you feel when that happens, you're like, God, I wish they could have seen this kind of thing, you know, when they were alive? It's a feeling I sometimes have, but you know, comics that pass and stuff like that, which when all these great stories come out, I'm like, did they know, did they know they touched everybody's life this way?
I think the one with the least idea of how important he was would be Taylor. I mean, Neil knew that he was a professor and that, you know, all he had to do is play a show and there's 80,000 people air drumming every lick. And same with Charlie and same with Ginger Baker. But Taylor was such a fanboy, it never crossed his mind that he himself is a big deal. Because he, you know, whenever I'd hang out with him, he'd be wearing his Police t-shirt. You know,
that's awesome.
Go hang out with Neil and he's wearing his Rush t-shirt. He just was he was lit up by the whole thing of it, and I really enjoyed it.
Wow.
But both him and Dave and the rest of them, Nat, you know, and the rest of them, they're absolutely a very humble band, and which makes them a very easy hang.
Is it an impetus to call something? Like, did you talk to Dave right when it happened? Do you make that phone call? Do you give people space when it happens?
Space
is best.
Space is best. He's got people calling. I've got people calling.
Yeah.
I could use some space, but nothing like Dave's going through. And there's another thing that I remember with Neil. When he first passed, I got a call from his roadie that afternoon. And that night, the band, family, crew, gathered in a restaurant in Venice Beach. And I had seen it coming. I felt that it was a full ride, a full life, well lived. And I was full of, you know, I was kind of upbeat about it. But I get there and the people who are with, because I just hang out with them occasionally, but the people who he's in their lives every day, his wife, his crew, Alex and Getty, they were just, you know, blown away, even though they also saw it coming. But just this hole in their life suddenly, cut to 2 weeks later, the memorial service. By now, it's sunk in. The professor is gone. you know, the No More Hang at the Bubba Cave, you know,
Yeah.
and it really started to get to me. And at the memorial, his family and closer people had kind of begun to deal with it, and were able to smile again at the memory of his life. And there was, in fact, there was, you know, Dwayne, Jethro Tull's drummer, and Taylor, Chad Smith, Danny Carey.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm a crap name dropper because I can never remember any of my best friends' names. I would be absolutely terrible. I can just remember that guy who played in.
We'll blame it on the curse of this show.
Lamenting, you know,
Yeah.
and we all kind of were feeling it by that time, whereas Getty and Alex were kind of comforting us by that time.
Right. We'll blame that on the curse of the show, by the way. Literally every guest we've had on cannot remember one very obvious thing. I do the same shit. I don't know what it is, but it's time of day or whatever it is. But everyone's like, what's my mother's name?
Yeah.
You know, but it's weird. So I love hearing, you know, it's beautiful to know that like the people that you admire, the bands you love, the musicians you love, all have a genuine appreciation for each other. Like that's so heartwarming.
Well, particularly
you know?
drummers.
Right. Yeah, that's a tight-knit group.
Drummers get along much better amongst ourselves than guitarists do.
Really?
Oh yeah.
Higher competition with guitarists?
How many guitarists does it take to screw in a light bulb?
How many?
Any number. One to do it, and the other guys to say, "Well, I could have done that much better."
I was gonna ask though, like, you know, because you guys all love each other and have such a high appreciation for each other, is it? It's got to be awesome to see somebody that you appreciate in the audience watching you, or backstage they came to visit. Is there anybody that you would? Is there anybody that you would say that didn't get to see you perform yet, or may never get to see you perform that you wish was there?
Well, when I was a kid, I used to dream of going into the music store to buy some drumsticks and looking over. Whoa, there's Jimi Hendrix, and Jimmy notices me trying out a snare drum. Says, "Hey, kid, you're good. Why don't you come back to my place and let's jam?" You know, that was my fantasy.
Yeah.
What's amazing is you say that, and now you've actually created that space where you're doing that to somebody else.
Come on back and jam, kiddo.
Love
you
that.
look like you've got talent.
Right? That's amazing.
Are you kids like interested in music? Do they want to go into it? Would you recommend it? Would you help them? Would you stay out of the way? What's your fatherly and musicianly advice?
I have 7 children. And only 1.5 of them have the gift. And the one who really has the gift, who just picks up any instrument that belongs to him and beautiful things come out, he's a filmmaker.
Oh, wow.
And still has that. He had a band, which was really cool. But he actually has 2 children to feed, my grandchildren.
Oh, very nice.
And so he's got a post-production empire.
Do you wait for them to come to you just for advice for stuff, or do you kind of impart it on them naturally?
Kidding? I lay it on them with a trowel. Arise, my sons, awake! Take the destiny that is yours. Your name is being called unto the heavens. Take your destiny. What is yours? Rise up, my sons. Dad, I'm just oh yeah, that's a father's job, you know.
Yeah. Did you ever want to act? Did you ever want to go into acting, be an actor? Because your son's a filmmaker.
I had that opportunity, and I suck. I did not get that particular gift.
What? This is insane. I'm watching you do
posing. Yeah, I can do the posing.
Okay.
Acting, not convincing.
But your son wants to put you in a film. What do you say?
As long as the character is me.
Okay.
I was gonna say written around you, where it's just your personality.
Yeah, I mean, I can ham it up but acting does take a particular gift, which the good Lord did not bestow upon me.
Gotcha.
Actually, the other one that I did not get, which is really strange, is pianitude. I can play guitars, fake it on most instruments except for the piano, the keyboards, which is ironic because I spend all day, every day, entering notes on a keyboard. That's how I compose, is with a keyboard. Okay, I'm just going to enter a bass drum pedal, a bass drum hit right here. Okay, hit record. Boom, fuck, undo. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. Fuck, undo. You know.
Is there an instrument somebody would be surprised that you play that nobody may know?
Well, writing opera usually stops the conversation.
Yeah, that was if I hadn't read that in advance, I feel like I would have been like, come again? That's phenomenal. How did you stumble into that?
Well, I got my first film was Rumblefish for Francis Ford Coppola, and the fight director on that film, this being the way Francis works, was the director of the San Francisco Ballet. So he got this incredibly balletic fight sequence, which was really cool. And the guy was impressed with the music, and he invited me to write a ballet for the San Francisco Ballet, which I did. And he was probably expecting me to come in with some kind of rock riffs, but I was raised on Stravinsky and always had orchestral music going around in my head. And so I showed up with an orchestral score. It was, let's be frank, an abomination. And I got torn to shreds by the San Francisco Chronicle or whatever the paper was. I still have it. It's absolutely, that journalist was incensed. And but there were 3 bars that didn't suck, that were actually kind of cool. And that was enough to make me think, I want to do this. And in a press promo for that, somebody said, Copeland, are you going to write another ballet? And I just pissing around. When I finish my opera, okay, I get a call from the Cleveland Opera saying, when you finish your opera, could we have a look at it? So I bonded with them. It actually took 4 years to write that one, kind of under the tutelage of David Bamberger, the director of the opera company. And that is the most fun a composer can have with his clothes on. And film composing, it's not really art, it's craft. I'm there to serve the art. I don't do it anymore. But when I was doing that, a hired gun, flinty-eyed professional. You want happy? I'll give you happy. You want sad? Oh, you want happy? Sad? I got that. And I humbly suggest that the film composer has the widest set of musical skills, because he has to. He can do classical, he can do jazz, he can do electronic, period stuff, future stuff, everything. Every happy, sad, everything. Because you have to. And the film composing forced me to learn how to work with orchestra, and because that's how it sounds like a movie. And I just, on the job, picked up the chops. Actually, since you mentioned it, this here is the result.
Oh my God!
Check it out. This
phenomenal. Little high. There we go. Oh my God!
And it is actual music.
Wow, that is incredible,
that's
man. Oh my God!
Don't tell anybody, but I'm sending that to Stingo.
Oh, nice.
What's the biggest working challenge out of the stuff that you've done eclectically? Would you say you've kind of had to, not, I don't want to say suffer through, that's the wrong word, because you seem enthusiastic about everything, but what's the hardest thing you've done that you wound up overcoming and enjoy, now?
Well, the physicality of drums was a big problem. When we did the Police reunion tour, that was 2.5 hours of chopping wood.
Wow.
And because there's just 3 of us, and because the expectations were high, you got to get it right. It's got to be huge. And just the calories burned. By the end of that, it was almost 2 years. By the end of that, I was losing fingers. It just, the physical damage was hell.
Right.
But this orchestral thing where I play with orchestra, in fact, I do the Police music all deranged and messed up for orchestra. And I have 3 soul sisters on the mic, my D-Rangettes. And I so love my D-Rangettes, or we call them the Dejettes. I have to play so quietly with the orchestra that I've developed a whole technique because they're acoustic. And my drum is designed, my instrument is designed to compete with heavy amplification. So to play quietly has taken me years, but I'm getting there. And I still slam, but at a much lower volume. I don't break my wrists.
Right.
The drums sound amazing when you're not killing them, and nobody gets a headache.
Nice.
It's a very different technique, but actually I've got more cool slick shit going on.
Right.
That because playing with a band, you have, a lot of the subtleties, and believe it or not, folks, there are subtleties in a drum set.
Of course.
you can't just have no place in rock and roll, but they do in an orchestral environment.
Nice. Do you favor one more than the other, as opposed to, let's say, working collaboratively with people or by yourself?
I love them both. I am a collaborative person. I am a youngest sibling. I am happy. Sting was the oldest sibling, so he assumed that I was jealous and whatever. You know,
Right.
We've since worked it out. We've hugged it out.
Nice.
But nothing could be. No, I like being on the team. In the back is fine for me. I was always the youngest. You know, the most junior member of whatever the team was, but happy to do my thing and just be on the team was good enough for me.
Yeah.
That's the way I feel about bands in general. But also, one reason why I appreciate Sting a lot more is that when I work with the orchestra, I tell them every single note to play. Not only that, but how they play it. It's not da 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 da. It's da 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 da. You know, and you shape that with the articulations. You put more ink on the page, and so when I go to play a show, I know exactly where they are, so I can go wherever I want to go because I can count on them. And like a singer in a band needs to have a solid foundation so that they can fly. Yeah. I'm the wrong guy for that. I'm just having too much fun doing my thing, and singers gotta. Where's one? You know?
Is it hard to transition between the two? Like, to take time? Because I find, like, if I'm in a writer's
show is Oysterhead, which is the opposite. We walk out there and just make shit up, and that fan base, which is mainly Trey Anastasio's fan base, you know, and also Les Claypool. That's what they come for. They want to hear something that has never happened before. It was created for them on that night, and it'll never be heard again. It was, you know, it was made right there in front of them. And there is a buzz to that. The musicians feel that buzz of coming in, and we're dead in the water sometimes, and that's part of it. There are times when we're just like dead in the water, and my pop sensibilities are horrified. But I look down at the front rows, and they're loving it. It's proof that we're just making this shit up. That's what beautiful. They came for. Yeah. And those surges, when, you know, Les Claypool comes on, he finds it. Okay, I got a lot. Okay, I can lay it. And then Trey takes off, and we lift and we surge. And the audience goes bananas for that kind of. That's what they are coming for, and that's what Oysterhead is all about. That surge of a new discovery, and let's see where this rocket ship is going to flow.
Oh my God! Well, I don't know, Tom. Do we have? I know we have a bunch of comments. Do we have a ton of people?
I'm getting hoarse, actually. I think I'm ready.
We're wrapping. Yeah,
we're gonna wrap. We just have a couple comments and questions from the crowd, because you have a tremendous fan base that's been checking in with us from all over the world.
They love you.
Missouri, Ohio, New Zealand, West Hollywood, LA, they're Argentina, all over. So I asked them to give us a few questions so we could address them, and I would just love to do it. First, I'd like to bring up, this was a great comment that you said, "Yay, Stewie, it's so nice. What a mensch you are, and so nice to all of your fans." And here come, right? And somebody asked, "What is your biggest musical hero or influence?"
I'd have to split that accolade between Igor Stravinsky and Jimi Hendrix.
Nice.
Love it. Stravinsky and Hendrix. What Police song tripped you up the most?
Spirits in the Material World. I hate playing that song.
Wow.
But it's one of people's favorites, so I got it.
It is.
But it's on the knife's edge. It's all my fault. Hide the one. There's no one. You know, 3, 4, and you have to stay on this upbeat. And sometimes the orchestra, they don't get that upbeat.
Right.
And so the guitarist has got it, Rusty Anderson, who I borrowed from Paul McCartney. He has that in with the band, but it's still right on the edge of disaster.
Wow.
And the Dejettes, God bless them, they're owning it, and they're kind of wafting around the beat. So don't listen to the singers or we'll be lost. And I haven't fallen off the cliff yet, but I know I'm gonna.
That's great. And what Police song was your favorite to play?
Can't Stand Losing You. Ooh. Because it evolved into a jam, which became a track on the next album called Regatta de Blanc. And it's just a call and response thing with the audience. That's always a great fun show closer.
Awesome.
And then we had a couple of quick comments. Somebody had mentioned they would like you to, if you would like to bring it to the Ben-Hur concert to Italy, it would be great in the Ancient Theater in Taormina.
Love it. I'd love to do that. I'm working on that. Yeah.
Are you? Perfect. That's definitely a cool one. DJ Triple N Jen from West Hollywood said, "You are so awesome. Will you be talking about Clark Kent or Clark Cunt?" I don't know where that came from.
Hey, watch the language there.
Yeah, what?
See, if they weren't from West Hollywood and they were from England, I would say that's normal. That's not a bad deal. And I think that is the majority of it. And we had one more suggestion that there was a little girl over in England. Well, I'll pull up that name before we go, and that'll be our last one.
Yeah.
You can hear them with 3 big ones. So, Deb Star Divine Stewart, you should have an amazing little girl named Nandi Bushell in Sacred Grove. So, Nandi Bushell, we're giving her the chance for you to be her Jimi Hendrix. He'll take that into consideration. There we go.
I will indeed.
Come
on down, Nandy.
There we are.
We have 3 questions we ask every guest. I'm just going to fire them at you. The first one is, if you can go back in time and talk to your younger self, give yourself a piece of advice that would help you today, what would it be?
Yeah, I do that. Relax.
Nice.
Somebody asked me that, how come you got so much energy? And I know the answer to that one. It's relax.
Right.
Particularly, specifically on drums, but also in life.
Right.
The more you relax, the more power you have.
Yeah.
It's
absolutely.
a real simple equation. And I didn't figure that out until embarrassingly recently.
Oh, it's hard to tell yourself to take the time, because if you feel like you do, you're not working, or you're missing out, or
well, the thing is that work that you're trying to do, you can do it much better, much more profoundly if you're relaxed.
Absolutely. Second question is, what had to end in your life, good or bad, that led you to where you are today?
I don't know, breaking up the police.
Yeah.
It had to end.
Yeah.
So that we could, all 3 of us, go and climb new mountains and do cool new stuff. Because when we were in the police, it was like a golden cage. Mm-hmm. Sting wanted to go act in movies. You're probably going to suck as an actor. I wanted to do film score work. No money in it. And so whatever we wanted to do was kind of iced out. And so we had to melt down the golden cage to be free. And in fact, I think Stingo put it very well when he said, if you love somebody, set them free.
Nice.
That's great. I read, sorry, before you hit that last question, I read that the disagreement between you two was that you found music to be a celebration. I don't know how true this is, like if that was the true information, and he found it as an escape. So I feel like
that's true.
That is true. Yeah.
Well, music has a different place in his life. We are not birds of a feather. And we understand that now. And the purpose of music, for me, it's like, let's burn the house down. Let's light it all up. For him, it's a beautiful place of comfort and beauty and serenity. And then that fucking Copeland comes in banging shit. And oh my God.
Love it.
That is great. And then, I'm sorry, John, one more thing, because they just keep asking in the chat. They wanted to hear you talk a little bit about Bob Garcia, because they had lost him, and that was...
Bob Garcia was the man at the record company who discovered us after we were already signed by the English record company, which signed the Police as an adjunct of Clark Kent. I had a hit with Clark Kent, and they said, let's sign this guy up and get his band too. And we all know how that worked out. But then we came over to tour America, but the American record company had no idea what we were doing there. And guys, we're not, don't even come over. But we came over and we were doing stuff. And Bob Garcia was the first guy from A&M Records to come out to a show somewhere very obscure and say, dang. And he went back to LA and talked to Jerry Moss, the M of A&M Records, and Herb Albert, the A of A&M Records, and said, we've got a phenomenon, stand up, 10 Hut. This is huge. And they went from being a non-record company, wondering why we were even there, to suddenly being the best record company in the world. And they they had the smallest roster with the highest percentage of hits, because they stuck with acts and they were amazing. But it was Bob Garcia who kind of introduced the Police to A&M Records.
Wow.
And he was also a great guy.
And the last question ties in with the theme of the whole show. So if this was a genuine dystopia, and alien, zombies, meteor heading to Earth, climate change, floods, everybody knows
It's all
it's their
happening
last.
here in California. We got.
I was gonna say it's kind of that's why I did the show. It's kind of close. We're all there. If everybody knew it was their last day, how does Stewart Copeland spend his last day? What's your epic death? How do you want to go out?
With my family, with my kitties and my grandkitties and my wife Fiona and I don't know.
Everybody picking up an instrument.
Just being with the people I love.
Nice.
Because I am a man of love. And remember, all of you listeners, remember love. That's what Clark Kent advises. And it sounds simple, but the loving part is easy. It's the remembering that's tricky. Ooh. You know, somebody cuts you up on traffic. Hey, I love you.
Love it.
I love that.
Very nice, man. Thank you so much for coming on and spending time with us. I really appreciate it, man.
Yeah, we truly appreciate you joining us. Thanks so
Remember
much, man.
love.
We will.
Dystopia Tonight.